JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, August 15th. Talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at, go from there. Actually, not much really to talk about. It's one of those days where I want to, I'm looking at some names, want to play some lottos, want to look for some names into next week, and it's almost like I'm just going to sit on my hands because I don't want to overtrade with with what's going on with UNH from yesterday to today. It was over 308 before. Just seeing some of those moves, just like sometimes it can cloud your judgment, right? And you want to kind of either be more aggressive or you get into trades that maybe you wouldn't have this week. So in lieu of trying to mess up the weekend, right? The worst kind of feeling you have heading into a weekend is when you mess up a trade. So I don't want to pour salt in the wounds or what have you. So just pretty much sitting on my hands here today. But take a look at the SPY. I talked about 628 to 646 range for this week and 646 again today, right at the open. Chopped around, hit lows around 11:30, and we've kind of been bouncing around ever since. Yesterday was the S&P's turn to all-time high close despite the weakness. Today's the Dow's turn, right? United Healthcare is one of the largest, if not the largest component. It used to be because the Dow is based on price, which is just mind-boggling. But it's less of a tracking index than more of just it's like a statue, right? I mean, it's there. It's good for the markets to talk about the Dow, which is kind of like meaningless in terms of some of the metrics. I would say meaningless, but compared to the other indexes. Next week's a big one. I mean, there's still earnings, so we have some more retail, right? Home Depot, Walmart, Target. Trying to think of some of the other names that report. And then Friday's Jackson Hole. So I put that up earlier. The implied move for the the SPY, and this all change. Who knows what's going to happen here over the weekend? But it pretty much implies a range of 635 to 653 for Friday's expiration, which is like a 1.4% move for next week. So we'll see how things play out Monday. That might be the new range into next week. I think the only way we get up to 653, there would have to be like a extremely dovish spin. I don't know if that's what Powell's going to do, but uh, yeah, to me, I almost want to see a little consolidation here, and then maybe we can work on the next leg. Trying to think of some of the other things going on. I think that's it. All right, so just quick on some individual names. I saw on the watch list this morning. And small caps, right? Small caps taking on chin right at the open, bouncing a little bit here, but still up. I think it's up nearly 3% still for the week. So, all things considered, between yesterday and today's pullback, still nothing crazy. All right. So that's that. So MDB is one of those names I've been watching, especially over the last couple of weeks. It seems to have some kind of rally on Fridays, like some fun. It's like, okay, we're gonna acquire whatever XX% of shares that we want to get on MDB every Friday, starting at the open, right? And then when we're done, we'll wait till next Friday. Just crazy how it works. But MDB again today. And you know what? I was looking at the spreads at the open. I was like, 212.50s looked like they were like 50 cents to 215s look interesting. But the stock was like 208, 209. Then it went up to 211. I'm like, and then it dropped to 209. I'm like, oh, good thing I didn't add. And then it starts to go. And then you watch, and I'm like, it looks well bid, holding up even on market when the market dipped a little bit. So I'm like, in lieu of instead of trying to get the weeklies, and the 217.50s were the ones I would have gotten. And I think they were 40 cents when I was looking at the strikes. I went and got next week's calls, and it would have been nice to be able to lock some in to cover cost. I got close to 100%, up to $2. I'll just continue to hold those into next week because it's not going to take much. Stock's back over its 50-day moving average, 216. Knock on wood. Hopefully that holds. And it's one of those names. I'm trying to think of similar plays I've had over the last couple of months where, Restoration Hardware, Wayfair, names that have been destroyed. Undeservingly so. And maybe it is deservingly so. The report earnings at the end of August. I think it's the end of August. But to me, I think there's just an opportunity. Some of the sell-off is to do with Amazon's web service numbers, which I didn't think they were. Was it Microsoft or Amazon? I think it was Amazon. Which one had I think it was the Amazon one. So I think it trades higher next week. If it gets to 225 Monday, even Tuesday, the 230 is gonna be a couple bags at minimum. So the plan, hold them into the weekend, locks them in Monday, ride the rest, and maybe it really takes off and reverses. And on a chart basis here, and you start looking where it hit highs all the way up to I think 255 or so, and then it had that pull right into the end of August. Now you have, I mean, S&P had the higher high, higher low situation going on for a long time. It looks like MDB might have a lower high, lower low. So we'll see if it can break out of that rut. I mean, then you're talking 240 plus. I don't know if it'll happen next week, but that was the MDB trade today. And then Lulu, right? So, I still think people, there's names that have been, so, I mean, MDB is a good example too, that have been undeservingly beaten to shreds. And I'm not saying that Lulu deserved to have the premium valuation had started here, but I think there's an opportunity at least for a short-term bounce from these levels. So that's kind of the thought process there. I was able to thankfully at least cover the costs on the weeklies. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to close the rest out for. I thought we were going to go to 210 the way things were looking on Thursday morning. And when am I thinking Thursday morning? When was the yeah? And then we have the little bounce here today, and was at over 200. I'm like, oh, we're gonna get over 205, and then we had a pull. And I don't know if the apparel space there's still some uneasy hands. I don't know what it is, but it just like seemed like it couldn't get going. Then it was hitting lows by noon. I'm like, oh gosh, and it found a bit here, and it's still in the green, but I would love to see it back over 200 into the weekend. But similar when it got later date strikes, my 215s already riding freebies there, and those are back to flat. And then I went and got to 230s for the following week. So similar, it's not going to need much for the 230s to gain premium, especially if it gets 210 plus. So that's kind of thought process there. I'll continue to hold those. Uh, Oh, UNH, right? Disappointing. This time last week, I was on the chat and I posted this chart, right? And I was talking about UNH. People have been trying to catch this fallen knife since $500, right? And I said nope, 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 nope. And then I'm like, I just added the 270 strikes for next week. And if I could have told my history, so if I could go back in time and tell myself just hold a couple into Friday, today would have been like an amazing day. But still made some profits. I mean, it probably trades up to 325. It's just for me, it's harder to trade for how I trade. So I'll just sit on the sidelines. All right, so that's UNH. There's always trades, right? And not I'm not here to force trades. Just gotta continue to, I always say, well, a lot of folks say it, but luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? So got to do the work, find some names, do the research, come up with the rationale behind a position or a trade, and then you got to find the opportunity, and then just hopefully they play out. More times than not they do if you put the work in. And anyway, all right, so that's UNH. I'm trying to think of the other. Oh, VKTX, right? So I keep wrapping my head around VKTX, and I almost pulled the trigger on the September 60s earlier. They were like 330. I was looking at August 29 strikes, and those premiums started to go up. I'm like, should I get those? So I'm just trying to wrap my head around some things, and it's like, I'm a little concerned. Like you see the reaction now with LLY, the NVO, and it's like, is the enthusiasm over the GLP-1 space, is it kind of like fizzled? It would have to be an insane number for VKTX, which I think it's going to be, to kind of reinvigorate that sector. So maybe it is the catalyst, and it rockets back over $100. I'm just trying to wrap my head around that risk scores, and like then I get this feeling in my stomach, and it's the feeling that happens when a company has either earnings or a catalyst and it disappoints and the stock tanks, and it's a horrible feeling. I For some reason I'm getting that feeling, so I'm like, let me not have that feeling. If it has great data, goes to the moon. I mean, there's a lot of people on the calls. I'll be rooting for them. I'm probably going to wait this weekend, and then I'm probably, I'm thinking I might just get lottos on a weekly basis. Yeah, commons will work too, but uh it's a risk reward too, right? So I might just get weeklies on Mondays and try for premium builds so I can cover costs and then ride the rest into the end of the week. I'm thinking that might be my strategy going forward. So I will see how this all plays out, but this will be a weekend. I won't have calls. So, knock on wood, there'll be data out after the close here today. The way the week has gone, data out Monday before the open. Um, yeah, the premiums were, yeah. I'm trying to think. So that's VKTX. So that's how I rationalize. That's the plan right now. It wasn't the plan to start a week. Uh, that's that. Oh, and Reddit, right? I mean, here's another torturous move for Reddit. So if you were sitting on the weekly strikes all the way up in the 240s yesterday, you think everything's great, it's going to rock and roll today, and then boom, gives it back. It's 236 after the open, and then you would have to either sell your calls, which were up substantially coming into today, or hold, right? Hold on like you're on a wild donkey or whatever, and then hold on for dear life, and then only to see it go back up to 248 all-time highs. So tough ride. I gotta have those brass balls, whatever we were talking about with UNH. Uh, yeah, tough one. I put on the watch list this morning. It's like the more you look at that one, the more it's like it's probably going to $300 just how to play it. And I was looking at strikes earlier today, and it's going to probably be bumpy. And there's still some folks. I mean, there were folks when it was $100 only 3 months ago that thought the story was done. Right? AI was going to kill them. Google's the way they're switching up their search and all that. That's going to kill them. And here it is, just and it's probably going to continue to go bonkers. But I'm like, if I want to go out later date, you go look at the September 300s, but they're 350. Well, actually, they're 455 now. So they're kind of, the 5%. So, I mean, is the premiums going to do on the September 300s like it did on the 240s? It's going to torture me. And then they're going to go into red. I'm going to close them out, and then the stock will take off. In lieu of wasting mental energy managing that position, I'll probably just, similar to VKTX, probably just try and do the weeklies if I see opportunities. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Have a great weekend. Rock and roll.